Hi, my name is Cathy Neptune, and welcome to my kitchen. We're going to celebrate the fall holiday season with our menu tonight. We're going to be doing a turkey pot pie with your leftover turkeys. What else do we have this time of year? But a lot of leftovers. Then we're going to do a very interesting crust on the top and a different way to prepare it and assemble it in a time-saving way. Then we're going to do a cranberry apple sauce, quick and easy and really tasty, a little break from the straight cranberry that you might be used to. And we're going to start out tonight with our quick and easy pumpkin cake. And wait until you see the way we cook this. It's going to take it to a different level. And again, I'm all about quick and easy. I just want to remind you too, up front, don't worry about writing down these recipes. My email is right underneath. I'll be happy to send you the recipe and some tips and also resources where to get most of these great tools. I always say you can't build a house without the right tools, and you can't cook without the right tools. It makes it so much easier and more fun. So we're going to start out with our pumpkin cake tonight, and just starting out with one of my favorites, a boxed spice cake mix. And that's a good thing to do because you don't have to worry, because it's a pumpkin cake, that you have to add your ginger and everything else to it. So we're just going to put that in a bowl. We have 3 eggs that I've cracked and put in here. So I'm going to add that on top. 3 eggs without the shells. And did you know if you have your eggs sitting out at room temperature for an hour or so, they blend and bake better into your baked product. So feel free to leave your eggs out at room temperature for an hour or so, and it makes it easier. And I just like to break up the eggs a little bit, and off to the side, you can mix your pumpkin with your eggs in the beginning. That would make it easier. And we're going to add in a can of pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling, just straight pumpkin that you would add your own sugar and spices to ordinarily. So it's just a regular can of pumpkin. Oh, we have our live audience tonight. Hi, Louisa, my friend Louisa. And you have a question tonight, Louisa?
I do. What if could you use fresh pumpkin in
Fresh,
the mix?
yeah, that's a good question. And if you want to do it, it's a little more work. But canned pumpkin is one of those unusual ingredients that tastes just about as good as the fresh pumpkins you can get. And if you wanted to do a pumpkin, make sure you use what they call a sugar pumpkin, which is a sweeter and denser pumpkin. And just cut it in half. I use a meat cleaver and a hammer to cut them in half. Be careful. And put them upside down on a cookie sheet. And you bake them in the oven at 350 until they're soft. And I don't even take the seeds out till halfway. Halfway when it cooks, you take it out and then scoop out all the pulp. And really good idea is you want to drain your pumpkin overnight in a colander over a bowl, because that's what makes it nice and dense and not watery. And you use it on the measurements, like if you're using this can of pumpkin is 15 ounces, then you use approximately 15 ounces of your fresh pumpkin. And it freezes well too, so make a whole batch when you can get pumpkins in season. And the same technique with squash. If you want to do a squash pie or a squash cake, it's all the same. So that's a really good question. Do you make pies, Louisa? Yeah. It's good to do. So we're just whisking this together, and that's all the ingredients that are in there. And like I said, you have your spices. I can smell the pumpkin spices in your cake mix. So how easy is that? And in my pan, I want to show you this. This is a stoneware bundt pan you can see on the bottom. And I love using this because we're going to cook this in the microwave. And it takes 15 minutes in the microwave. So how easy is that? And you'll notice there's a shiny coating in here. And what I've done ahead of time, I have this great mixture. You're going to want to write this down and keep it in your refrigerator. It's a non-stick baking coating that I use especially on bundt pans, muffin pans, cake pans, cookie sheets. Because after a while, if you use that spray stuff, it leaves a residue. Have you ever seen that black, sticky, yucky coating on your cookie sheets? Well, that's residue from these sprays. And after a while, that'll just compromise the surface on your baking stones or in your bun pans or your muffin pans. But you want to use this, and I'll tell you, it's quick and easy. It looks like a paste. And it's one part of each of these three things. You whisk together some shortening, vegetable oil, and flour. And it looks a little lumpy in the beginning, but you just mix it all together with a whisk and store it in your refrigerator. And that's what you put for a non-stick coating. And I'll tell you, it's handy, it's inexpensive, and you don't have to worry about running out of it because it's good to have on hand for everything. So we're just going to scoop this in here like so, and this is going to cook in the microwave in 15 minutes, and we're going to let it cool down. Oh, another question, Louisa. What's going on?
But that non-stick mix, so that means you don't have to spray or flour the pan?
No,
so
good.
that covers the whole one?
Yep, because guess what's in here? Flour.
Yeah, so
You already have your flour. Yeah. I don't know where I heard that. I wish I could give somebody credit, but I've been doing that for years, and it's just so one of those kitchen things. So that's our cake mix, like so. And we're going to cook it 10 minutes on high. Excuse my back. Well, let's do 15. Cook time. Oops. How easy is that? And I do a lot of things in my microwave when I can. So we're going to put this over here. And when we come back, we're going to make some topping for our turkey pie. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're assembling our main dish here. But I had another question from Louisa. And Louisa, what did you want to know, hon?
I have a friend who has gluten-free allergies. Could you make the cake gluten-free?
Oh, good. We're going to backtrack a little bit, but that's a great question. I imagine, let's talk about the cake mix. You could certainly do if you couldn't find a spice cake mix, you could do a regular yellow or white cake mix and add your pumpkin pie spices. That would make it a spice cake. And then for the coating that I used, instead of of course, the oil and the shortening that are gluten-free, and then maybe something like a rice flour into it as well. So if you care to share your information, and I don't have a lot of expertise in that, but that's what I understand would be good substitutes. But feel free to write in and tell me your experience with the gluten-free and how you would modify this for a gluten-free menu. That's a great question. So we're going to do a turkey pie with all your leftover turkey fixings that you have from the holidays. And I've done my turkey, if you didn't have leftover turkeys in the past, I've made turkey stock in a crock pot. I just turn it on in the morning. It takes 4 to 6 hours or 8 hours. It doesn't hurt. And you put carrots, onions, and celery. And turkey thighs or turkey legs or a turkey breast, whatever your preference. And you cook it and season it with salt and pepper. And at the end of the day, you let it cool. You pull all the meat off. And then I have the turkey stock here. And in here, I've cut up, you can see in here, just little cubes of carrots and potatoes and a little bit of celery. And you want to cut them all the same size so they cook evenly. So I cook that in the turkey stock here. And then we're going to add and make a roux to thicken up this broth and put it in our turkey pot pie. So what I'm going to do, I have about half a stick of butter that I've melted in here. And you want to add the same amount of flour. And this is the same technique. Last month I had somebody ask me how you make gravy without lumps. And this is the secret. You mix up your flour and melted butter, and the butter coats every granula of the flour and protects it from lumping. So it makes it kind of slippery so that it doesn't lump up on you. And you don't want lumpy sauce or lumpy gravy. And then we blend that all into the melted butter. And I'm going to take, this is the other secret. It's all about technique. You'll notice nothing I ever do is complicated or fancy ingredients. It's all about technique. So we're going to add a little bit of hot chicken stock is the secret. Now, if you were adding milk or cream, heaven forbid you're using cream in this, then you want to make sure it's hot. And you can just put it in the microwave if you want. You can see how instantly this is getting thick already. And then we'll just keep adding it. And there's a little bit of juice in our pot already with our vegetables. And you can see I still have vegetables in here. And we're just going to add it all in. And basically you have a roux, but then you also have a nice thick gravy that will thicken as it cooks. And it, depending on how you like your gravy, if you like it thicker or thinner, you can certainly modify it. And I've seasoned the stock with salt and pepper, and it has the onions and just as good as you make your stock is going to be the goodness will come out in the gravy that you have. So you want to really make sure it's seasoned, and I've already tasted this ahead of time to make sure it is. Then we're going to carefully pour this. I guess that wasn't so carefully, but it goes in there. And you'll see there's a little bit of juice in there, but that's no problem. It's all going to thicken up. And if you do this in a round pan or an oven-proof pan, you can certainly put this in the oven and keep it warm, or put it back in the microwave to cook it. So that's our turkey pie. And now we're going to go right to our topping. And instead of doing a pastry crust on the top, I'm going to do a biscuit topping, which is easy. It's going to be delicious. And it's kind of fun because, of course, I'm going to add a little different component in here. And in here, I probably have 2 tablespoons each of freshly chopped parsley and green onion. Sometimes I have a little bit of fresh thyme. I have a wonderful lemon thyme in my garden, and you could certainly use that. You can do ground black pepper in here too. It's a wonderful addition. But basically, it gives it a nice color and a fresh flavor. And we're going to add milk, and there's probably 2 to 3 cups of Bisquick mix, and we're going to cut these into a biscuit. We're going to roll them out. So you want exactly approximately that much. Be sure to write in, and I'll give you the measurements as close as I can. Excuse me. And every flour is different. It absorbs differently depending on the weather. If it's humid, you won't use as much water or milk as you would normally. You could also do butter in here, buttermilk or cream. But I'm just using skim milk here because we're trying to be a little light. So just mixing that. And I like a nice moist dough because it makes a more tender biscuit, but don't over mix. I'm going to take this and put a little flour on the surface of our counter. Set that aside and just sprinkle a little flour. And you can use a rolling pin if you want. I'll just take this, slide it out onto the surface, and don't be afraid to use a lot of flour so the dough doesn't get too sticky. Like that. Set that there. Let me turn off our microwave and let the cake set for about 10 minutes. This is going to be a good dough. You can pat it out or roll it out. I may not even need a rolling pin today. But make sure you use a lot of flour. I can't emphasize that enough because it's a sticky, wet dough. And we can always brush the flour off afterwards. I leave a little bit of bench flour on the side too to scoop in your cutter. And we're going to do 6 biscuits over here. If you look, probably about 6. What do you think? 6 biscuits? Louisa said yes. Okay. So here's another little tip. I'm full of ideas today. I'll tell you, I went to biscuit school. And this is what they taught me. Don't twist your dough when you cut biscuits because it doesn't let them rise. It restricts the rising. So you just press down like so, and you'll get a taller, flakier biscuit. That looks pretty darn good. Now, I'm going to take these, pull off the rest of the dough, and you can always make something with this, I'll tell you. Those would be good for breakfast. We're going to put these over on the baking stone. And I've got my oven preheated at 400 degrees. We're going to bake the biscuits till they're done. Oh, I can smell the pumpkin cake. It smells really good. And here's the 6th one. And these are going to go right over the top of the dough. Now, if you wanted to get fancy, you could have fancy cookie cutters if you want in different shapes. But I think these look just fine. So I'm going to pop these in the oven and bake them till they're done. Probably 15 minutes or so. And if you have a cast iron skillet, you can certainly use that. And I always put my biscuits on the bottom rack so they get the bottom heat and they puff up, which will be really good. We're going to scoop that off, and when we come back, I'm going to show you how to make a cranberry sauce that's easy, fast, and delicious. We'll be right back. We're going to do, in addition to our turkey pot pie that's staying warm in the oven with the herb biscuits, I'm going to do a really quick and easy cranberry sauce that has apples in it. And of course, you can use your leftover cranberry sauce. Always have extra for those sandwiches and side dishes and so forth. But I'm going to show you, I'm just using, I like the whole berry cranberry sauce. So we're just going to put it in a bowl here. And they make this so, this is another one of those canned products. I mean, if you want to make your own cranberry sauce, you can go to a bog and pick them all. You need about 487 cranberries to make cranberry sauce, but that's okay. And we're going to just kind of mush it up, or again, use your leftover. And I'm using just any kind of apple that you'd like to have, and we're going to slice it down. You don't even have to peel it if you don't want, but I just think it shows up better in the cranberry sauce if it's white. It's a better contrast, and I like visuals. So we're going to throw, and again, I have a trash barrel here. I'm not throwing everything on the floor, so thank you all for asking about that, because it does go in a trash bin. Recycling them. This is one of the recipes I use too. I do a cran-apple crisp, and I add apples to cranberry sauce and then do a crust on top. And that's a great combination. I mean, apples and cranberry, what's more New England than cranberries and apples? Especially this time of year. So we scoop that in. You can make them, you can even grate them if you want, but I find it makes it a little more watery because it has a finer grain to it. So we're going to do that. Chunk these up. Chunking being a technical term. I hear so many great ideas and comments. Thank you to everybody who writes in with your questions and your comments and suggestions too, because I use those to kind of outline and plan for what you'd like to see on my show. So don't forget to write in. My email is at the bottom of the screen, you'll see, with your questions, comments, and sources. And of course the recipes too, because I can give you the recipes for these. I'm going to put them all in here. So one small, medium-sized apple would be good. Whatever your favorite is. And I usually do Granny Smith for baking because, you know, they don't turn as brown as other apples do as quickly. They will eventually, but you get a little more leeway. Now, if you're prone and you like walnuts and you have nobody with allergies in your family, you can certainly add walnuts, and it's almost like a little walnut and apple salad with the cranberries, but look at how pretty that is. And this keeps well overnight. And then I'm going to just take an orange of any kind. I like the little clementines because they're the perfect size. And I'm just going to grate a little orange zest because I love the flavor with apples and cranberries. It's almost like a throwback to a cranberry orange relish with the crunchy apples for the texture. And you can see on a zester you don't get the white pith, just the wonderful flavor and aroma from the outer peel. So and you can see how finely that grates. These are great too for Parmesan cheese because it's so fine a grate. So I'd say probably a teaspoon at least, just a scant. And we're going to put that into a pretty dish. Oops. And I would chill this a little bit, or you could serve it just like this in a pretty bowl. It's festive, it's fun, it's quick. You could do a great big bowl and bring this to a dinner party and it'd be spectacular. I think that looks really nice. So there is our cran apple and orange relish. I'm going to put that on the table. And when we come back, I'm going to check on our microwave cake, a pumpkin cake that's been setting for about 10 minutes in the microwave just to firm up. And then we're going to plate it and we're going to do a wonderful glaze for the top. So we'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. Check this out. Look at our pumpkin cake. Eggs, pumpkin mix, spice cake mix, and there's in the microwave. Now make sure if you're going to use this recipe and microwave it, that your dish or your bun pan is microwave safe. They have a lot of ceramic ones. If you don't choose to cook this in the microwave, it'll do perfectly fine at a 350 degree oven for about 40 minutes. And make sure you treat the surface with a nonstick spray or the mixture that I gave you. And let it set for about 10 minutes and then turn it out. But give it about a 10-minute rest so that it's dense enough to turn out. Otherwise, it'll crumble. So we're going to make a nice glaze for the top of this. And I have some powdered sugar. And again, our orange. And we're just going to put a little orange zest. You know what would be good with this too? I love candied ginger. And you can buy that at any supermarket, and it's wonderful with pumpkin. You could substitute a squash mixture with this if you wanted to. It's just so good, and it smells. You can smell all the spices like you made this from scratch because it has the spice cake in it. So we're just going to do a little bit of orange zest to give it some depth of flavor. And then we're just going to add a little component of milk until it's the consistency of a drizzle. And be a little conservative at first, and you just whisk it. This would be a great cake to do with your children too, because it's so easy and it's so fun, and there's not a whole lot of measuring going on. It's just basically counting the 3 eggs and putting everything in a bowl and mixing it up. So the cake has cooled just slightly, and we're just going to take this mixture and drizzle it over the top. And you could put walnuts on here if you wanted to do walnuts, or grate a little more glaze over the top. But when that cools down, it is going to be good. You can serve a little whipped cream or ice cream with it, but I think that says it all. And we can even garnish with a little bit of orange on the side if you wanted to, just for color. You do a little pumpkin on the side. And we're good to go. How pretty is that? Pile it up. And there's your pumpkin spice cake. That is good, and it's even better the second day with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Enjoy that. Make that for your guests. It's a great recipe to bring with you too. If somebody says, bring something for dessert, And this is a great seasonal recipe. It's really good any time of the year. And it just, the fragrance when it's baking, even though it's in the microwave, it smells really good. So we're going to set that aside. We're going to do tool time tonight because you need all the help you can get in the kitchen when you're running around, especially if you work, and mothers work too, so we all work. And you're trying to get a dinner on the table. You have a lot of company coming or for your family. You want to use things that you have in your kitchen that are already available, and maybe I'll give you some ideas to use them in a different way. One of my favorite things, and you heard me talk about the crock pot today, and I use that to cook my turkey legs and make the turkey stock if you don't have your leftover turkey. You can leave that going all day long if you're doing a beef stew, and I like to recommend one that has a takeout center in it. Very important, easier to clean. You put the cover on it and it goes in the refrigerator. And I like to do my stock the night before and skim off any fat that it's on the top of the stock. So it's so convenient. But here's an idea that I do when I'm serving guests at a sit-down dinner. Always at the last minute, you're making gravy and mashed potatoes. And it's just a lot of work. And at the last minute, you're trying to carve the turkey, serve everybody at the same time. Why not do your potatoes, your mashed potatoes ahead of time, mix them up in your favorite bowl, a nice deep bowl, and then take them and put them in your crock pot, put the cover on, set it on low, or mine has a warm setting on it, so you could even do that, and they'll keep forever, and they don't dry out, they don't get crusty. You put a little melted butter on the top or a few pats of butter, and this, everybody can serve themselves. Get yourself a little plate with a serving spoon on it, and everybody helps themselves. This is a great time saving, and it just makes it easy for you too. So rethink your use of the crock pot as a serving tool. And of course, it's always great to serve soups or first courses during a meal. Rethink how you use them. Use them for warming and keeping dishes warm for serving. Great choice to have. Here's something else that I love to use. It's a coffee carafe, and you put your hot coffee in it and so forth. But as I mentioned, you're always making gravy at the last minute. Why not keep your gravy hot? You can pour it, serve it, and put it on the buffet for serving, and you've kept it warm. Now, if you want to clean it out, because coffee, you've been using it for coffee multiple times, just use baking soda and hot water and let it set overnight. Rinse it out, and it'll be fresh as can be. And it's a great thing to have. We're going to bring out, I'm going to check on our biscuits to see if they're done. Use these tools. We'll be right back, and I'm going to serve everything up for you. It's a feast. So we'll be right back. Once again, welcome back for our grand finale. We're going to finish off our turkey pie. And you know what, a great thing to do if you didn't want to do a turkey pie and make it a little more elegant, you could take a little ramekin like so and fill it up. And what we're going to do is these little biscuits. Look at our herb biscuits that came out of the oven. You could top each individual portion with a little herb biscuit, and make wonderful individual turkey pot pies. And like I said, this would be so easy. You could do your biscuits ahead of time and warm them in the oven and just put them on top. And I find they don't get soggy. They look beautiful. Imagine all the different shapes you could do for the different holidays. Man, this looks good. And I'll tell you, it smells like Thanksgiving all over again. How neat is that? We have our herb biscuits, leftover turkey pot pie. We have our cranberry applesauce here, and our wonderful microwaved pumpkin cake with a spice cake mix. Quick, easy, fun, and it is delicious. I hope you try these recipes. Thank you all for writing in and asking your questions. Enjoy, and may the fork be with you.